Planet Vero Studio is powered by the Nolan Group of RE/MAX Associated Realty. MyNextHomeFinder.com.
It's time now for Mental Health Matters with your host, Lisa Reimer. Mental Health Matters is graciously underwritten by New Vision Eye Center, world-class eye care on the Treasure Coast. New Horizons, thanks Dr. Paul Minotti, Dr. Stephen Tate, Dr. Robert Reinauer, and Dr. David O'Brien. Now, here's Lisa Reimer.
Mental health does matter. In fact, it may be one of the most important things in your life about yourself. Mental health issues influence your thinking, your decision-making, your behavior, and even your physical health. Yes, mental health affects physical health. We're going to be talking today to Jade Mazarin, who is a board-certified Christian counselor with her master's degree in marriage and family counseling. And she's going to talk a little bit about health, about some of the issues that she sees in her practice. She's got her degree from the Richmond Graduate University in Tennessee. She is a graduate of St. Edward's High School here in Vero Beach. And I am just so delighted that she's joining us remotely from her office here in the studio. Thank you for joining us, Jade. What is a Christian counselor?
So a Christian counselor usually incorporates both mental health practices and faith-based practices to help somebody achieve greater well-being, greater healing. Some Christian counselors focus more on the faith aspect of things only. I like to do a really good mixture of psychology and faith-based practices and helping people grow in their mental health, emotional health, and their spiritual health.
So, and in their physical health, you also do nutrition, and tell us just a little bit about that as well.
Sure. So I also have a certification in natural health consulting. And basically what that means is that I guide people to looking at ways that different supplements, different natural health treatments can help benefit their body and their mind, because the body and the mind are so connected, just like you mentioned earlier. So that's something I really like to look at the whole picture.
So we're coming up on the holidays, and I have to tell you that I've been wanting to do this interview for a very long time, and I could probably have a series of 6 shows just with what you specialize in. But when we talked about doing an interview today, one of the things is how to know when you're in a healthy or unhealthy relationship. And so much of what I read, in sort of pop culture is like, oh, I'm in a relationship with a narcissist, or I just broke up with a narcissist. And I just feel like, wow, this is about the other. What is it that these people are talking about in themselves that would draw them to that relationship? And so let's just talk about, like, what are some of the things about that you would know if you're in a healthy or an unhealthy relationship? What are some of the red flags, and what are some of the signs that say, yep, girl or guy, you got it right?
Yeah. So first of all, I think that's a really good point that you made about us having to look at ourselves and kind of what draws us to people like this, because a lot of times we can be in a pattern of drawing people who are narcissists and we don't know why. So I'll talk about that for a second in a bit, but I did want to address straight on your question of what those red flags are. And a lot of times they come reasonably early. Times when we see that the other person is being controlling, maybe not wanting us to be around our friends and family as much, maybe wanting to make some decisions for us, wanting to always find out where we are, what we're doing, just feeling kind of like we have to go along with what they want, or else they may get upset and try to make us feel bad.
So, I'm married 27 years, and my husband and I, we let each other know where we're at. And, and if there's something like, oh, you're going to be with that guy again, not that we do that, but that wouldn't be a really weird thing if there was an issue around that person. when do you draw the line between controlling and just sort of normal relating with another person in the world?
Well, and that's a good question. I think that one thing we have to do is listen to our gut, because a lot of times people who are being controlled, they'll get kind of this kind of uncomfortable feeling inside, and they may feel like they're getting smaller. They may feel like they're walking on eggshells. They may feel like, wait, this feels like a little too much. And so the person has to really listen to that. And I think in your situation and where this behavior is healthy, it's, first of all, it's not to an extreme, but then secondly, it doesn't feel icky or uncomfortable. It just feels nice or normal or, perfectly peaceful. So I think people need to listen to that.
Yeah, that is. So you brought up a good point about learning to listen to your own gut instincts. And then also being able to speak openly about that. And if that's received, getting feedback, because you might actually be like, and I read this in one of your emails to me, you may be triggered by your own old stuff, correct?
Yes, that happens quite a bit. So that muddies the water a little bit. But I think that, and sometimes when you're triggered, you end up saying, oh, well, I feel uncomfortable in this situation because my father was controlling, for example. So then you may think that the person in front of you is acting fine because you say, well, maybe it's just me. So we have to be aware of the baggage that we bring. And sometimes that's going to mean, us saying, wait a minute, I think that I have the tendency to notice these things, but it may not be going on. But at the same time, it may be going on. So you have to be willing to, sometimes you may need advice from your friends. Sometimes there may be a lot of confusion in your own mind, and you may need advice from, 2 or 3 or 1 or 2 just trustworthy people. And that can help with that.
Yeah. So this is, we're talking to Jade Mazarin today, and she is a faith-based Christian therapist. And I think that this is just really interesting because, mental health has a lot of stigma. In fact, the stigma is the main obstacle for people getting well. And unless there's an exceptional reason, why would people just get therapy? And so we just go through the world, oftentimes just acting out on what we've learned in our childhood, what we've learned in how to relate to people, both from good examples and bad examples. And unless there's a reason to pay attention to how we relate to the world, then we don't really change. And so therapy is a way of doing that. So, Jade, do you have people who come to therapy that are well and they just say, I want to live life better?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I definitely see people from all ends of the spectrum. And so it's, therapy, I think back in the day, there was, a stigma that was commonly associated with counseling of you have to be really bad to go to counseling. And that's just not the case. I mean, people can go with all sorts of different levels of wherever they're at. And if they're in a severe crisis mode, or if they, like you said, if they say, well, I feel like there could be more for me, so I just want to see how to get to that next level.
So I wanted to introduce in the studio today is Katie Love, my co-host and a senior at Indian River Charter High School. And we do a segment later in the show called Teenage Confidential, and we'll talk about some of the issues that are coming up with young people today. Do you deal with young people and adults, Jade?
I do. Yeah. It's definitely
What are some of the main issues that you're seeing with your clients that are teenagers or younger adults?
Sure. So I'm seeing a few different things that stand out in my mind right now. One of them is, of course, just the stress and possible depression of dealing with family issues. Teenagers and children, it's unfortunate that they kind of have to go along with whatever difficult family situation is going on. And even if their parents haven't made the best decisions in their own lives. And so that stress can rub off on the child. And so I'm seeing that, of course, seeing anxiety, seeing, comparison, especially with all this social media. There's a lot of not feeling good enough that's going on. And eating disorders is also a very prevalent issue.
So they still are. We are still dealing. So I know, when adults have anxiety, I know some of the symptoms of, that, from chewing fingernails to overeating, to overindulging in alcohol, to being, short-tempered. What are some of the symptoms of young people? Are they the same?
I think that they do overlap quite a bit. And I think that, actually, I think that they're pretty much the same across the board. And also just the, like you said, the overacting, but of course there's rebellion as well. There's all sorts of habits that are just unhealthy, even for them physically and emotionally. Sometimes people think that, that it's a cry for help and it's only a cry for help, but it's a very powerful thing when someone is asking for that help and doing it in any kind of dramatic way. Okay.
So let's sort of bring this back to the original. So about relationships. So let's say we talked about what some of the red flags, the internal sense of it not being okay. And perhaps then you start getting anxiety, correct? So what are some of the ways that you can deal with that? And what are some of the confirmations that you're in a healthy relationship?
Sure. Well, and first I'd love to add something to the red flag, which I think is a big one, that a lot of when you try to communicate with this person, it doesn't go well. That's pretty much always a telltale sign that that person either has some growing to do themselves, or, they really are a narcissist, which means that the reaction that you get is going to be pretty strong. So they're going to shut you down. They're going to turn it around on you and make it sound like it's your fault and you're too sensitive, or, that's nowhere near what they were trying to do. And so it's a kind of a manipulative thing, which you have to kind of pay attention to off the bat. Do you feel safe, emotionally safe, coming to this person with what you're feeling? And are they going to be receptive to that and considerate and respectful? And as far as the signs that this is a healthy relationship, going back on what I was saying about communication, just being able to speak with that person and know that you can share what's on your mind, knowing that you can feel comfortable to be open and honest. And also just seeing that there's a relative smoothness. Of course, all relationships have problems, but the relationships that are unhealthy tend to kind of be a really roller coaster kind of thing. So, the lows are really low, the highs may be really high, but then you're kind of going from one to another very frequently. And listening to the thoughts of your family and friends who may be able to see things that you are not able to see. Love is very much kind of a blinding feeling, and we have to be willing to hear things logically, look at things logically, pray about the situation, ask for real wisdom, ask for real guidance, and then realize that now is the best time to make those decisions, because down the road it gets a lot harder.
Okay, so we're going to take a short break. I love what you just said. I think relationships, you don't have to be perfect. As long as you're able to keep growing together, that's a really important thing. We'll take a break for our sponsors, and we'll be right back with Jade Mazarin.
Are you feeling blue? Going for a walk outside will surely lift your spirits. Studies indicate that walkers scored significantly higher on vitality, enthusiasm, pleasure, and self-esteem, and lower on tension, depression, and fatigue after they walked outside. Feeling down once in a while is normal, but if you're feeling depressed on a regular basis, you may want to consult a mental health professional. New Horizons is the largest mental health and substance abuse agency in the area, with help just a phone call away 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Call 772-468-5600 or visit newhorizonstreasurecoastinc.org.
The Tommy Bahama brand is legendary for its sophisticated interpretation of inspired island living. Right now at Sunshine Furniture, you save another 10% on all Tommy Bahama home and Lexington furniture during our Home for the Holidays event. Experience the casual comfort of the islands with designs made of exotic natural materials and rich finishes. We invite you to make life one long weekend with the cool and casual style of Tommy Bahama. At Sunshine Furniture, our showroom is filled with the largest selection of coastal indoor dining and bedroom sets, sofas, sleeper sofas, recliners, and slipcover groups by Four Seasons, Capri, Classic Rattan, Universal, and Hooker, all in stock for immediate delivery. Visit our website at sunshinefurniturecasual.com and don't forget our outlet and sales store directly across the street. Sunshine Furniture, 1295 US 1 in the Publix Plaza next to Planet Fitness in Vero Beach. Visit our website at sunshinefurniturecasual.com and don't forget our outlet and sales store directly across the street.
Hi, I'm Chris Nolan from the Nolan Group of RE/MAX Associated Realty. I'm looking for new agents that are eager to grow their professional future. The Nolan Group has state-of-the-art systems and coaching to maximize your success. For more information, visit nolanshow.com.
Call American Pavers to build your new driveway or pool deck this summer. With skilled engineers, American Pavers can offer you a lifetime guarantee. Work with a company that gives back to the community. 772-408-2005. American Pavers.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters. If you're just joining us, we are talking to Jade Mazarin today, a faith-based Christian therapist. And we've been talking about relationships and when you know you're in a good one and when you know you're not. Right now, Katie Love, my co-host and senior at Indian River Charter High School. Katie, you have a Teenage Confidential topic.
Yes, I do. Listening to you guys talk about relationships just kind of in general made me think about the amount of pressure that is almost on teenagers throughout high school to be in a relationship. I've even myself at some point, and countless of my friends are constantly struggling in finding relationships with people to seem cool or to find that, companionship in somebody, even if that person isn't necessarily a good person, which is so hard for just like a friend to watch this person like completely devote themselves to somebody who doesn't deserve it. And you try to reach out and help them. And, sitting as an outsider watching this person completely change from how you once knew them is like devastating, not only to you, but also watching like as their mental health goes from, when they were happy and hanging out with their friends constantly to almost being secluded only to that one person through that isolation. And I think that this kind of pressure that like, I feel like movies and like all of society has put on that, to be, you're cool if you're in a relationship, you're going to be loved and appreciated more if you're
like
in
my BF, my GF.
Right, and, and then there's always the postings online of, oh, I'm with my boo, oh, my bae. But like, you never know what's going on behind closed doors. I've had friends who would come to me and tell me all of these awful things that are happening. And I keep telling them, I'm like, why stay with them if you're so miserable? And then like 10 minutes later, they'll post a picture and be like, I love my boo thing. And I'm like, okay, like it's devastating to watch, and it's even awful because I've distanced myself from people who do that because it's hard to watch, and it hurts me because I don't want to lose my friends, but at the same time, if they're not willing to take care of themselves through this, then it's hard to sit there and watch them be in pain.
So Jade, first of all, I think that's really interesting. The whole idea of adults have a hard enough time being in a relationship. How the heck are teenagers learning how to be in a relationship at such a young age? And do you work with things like that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And, it's very much a learning process. And unfortunately, there's a lot of teenagers that don't know how to be in a healthy relationship, or that they deserve a healthy relationship, or what it even looks like, and maybe they didn't even have that role modeled for them. And certainly maybe they were not taught it. So it becomes a learning experience for them. And hopefully, they can learn sooner rather than later. But sometimes the only way for them to learn, besides talking to someone like me, is, going through it and realizing, wait a minute, this is not what I thought it would be. And hopefully they're willing to pay attention and really start to grow themselves. And I understand, not being able to see your friends who are going through this. I think that it's very hard to watch. Kind of the process before somebody starts learning is always hard for those of us who love them to watch.
I was just having this conversation that the most important relationship that a person can have is with themselves, right? That is like the first relationship. But as a teenager, that doesn't even factor in. Are you kidding me? Who cares? I mean, who cares what I think? I just care what everyone else thinks, right? So, how do you sort of get, and I do think that teenagers are more cognizant of that today, because we have so many, so many movies and TV shows and, magazine articles about that kind of stuff, to be okay with yourself. But knowing that cerebrally and knowing that internally, that's a big difference. Are there practices that parents can help with their kids to teach them, how to really work on your own relationship, make that the first relationship?
Yeah. First of all, saying those truths to their children is important. Reiterating those truths, reiterating to their children how valuable they are, how loved they are. And in some cases, parents may need to kind of evaluate where they were when they were raising the child. I mean, there may be things that the parent may need to apologize for and really face wholeheartedly. If, for example, they weren't around much, if they didn't show a lot of love to their child, I mean, that child is going to grow up feeling even more like they need a boyfriend or a girlfriend, like they don't know how to feel like they're enough in and of themselves, because they didn't feel like they were enough, all growing up. So one way to start that healing, changing process is the parent being able to look at themselves and kind of say, did I really show them that they mattered, that they truly mattered, that they were the most important thing in my world, which is what every child wants to feel from their parent. And if not, just to really allow the child to encourage the child to open up, the teenager in this case, to really ask and to really try to get that conversation going and to try to really apologize for anything, because that is a healing thing in and of itself. And then, speaking to the teenager about just how valuable and how important they really are. And, for me, I also did not feel like I was enough, which, as we're saying, most teenagers feel. And for me, when I developed my faith and my relationship with God, I started to feel stronger in myself. I started to feel more like I could stand on my own and didn't feel like I needed somebody to make me feel better about myself. So it was a really interesting thing I didn't expect to happen as a result of growing in my faith and my relationship with God. But I think I started to feel like there was somebody else carrying me, someone else who lived in me, who gave me real strength and real value. And, someone else on the outside was going to compliment me, but I didn't need them to feel anything anymore.
So, Jade, I just love what you just said. This is the first part of a two-part interview. Really quick, before we close for the second part, tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Sure. So first of all, I have a website where you can get more information as well as read articles, and my contact info is there. The website is www.jademazarin.net.
Okay, that's great. And do you have a phone number?
Yes, and that is 772-314-5555. 321-9912.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll be back in just a little while. Thanks.